Testing? Okay. Good morning, everybody. If you want to move into the church here, we'll get started with our budget review. We do have copies of the annual report in a box right by the back door there, so if you'd like to read along, we'll have some things up on the screen here too. I'm going to open us up today with a prayer. Can you please bow your heads? Dear loving God, bless this church today as we prayerfully consider our 2024 budget. Guide us to thoughtfully manage and honor the gifts of this congregation. Give us wisdom to meet the important needs of this church, to be a powerful and effective extension of your grace, love, and care for all people. Lead us as we are humble stewards of your creation. All that we have comes from you and belongs to you. Lord, in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you for being here. This is our annual budget review, and very quickly I'm going to turn it over to our treasurer, Barb Fowler, who will guide you through all of the numbers and give you all of the information, give you a chance for some questions today.
Thank you. All right, good morning. We'll talk about some numbers. And thank you to Jared for doing the PowerPoint. So, the first thing that a lot of people were interested in is where did we end up with the deficit? And closer, okay. So our income was $18,000 under budget. Our expenses were $1,000 under budget. So that left a net deficit of $17,000. And those funds will be taken from the operating reserve fund to balance off. I think some of you who are looking at the books have, do you have this one? Okay. This chart appears in your annual report, and it's a chart that we get from LSS. It's just kind of interesting, but notice the last 2 months of last year, we brought in $243,000, and that was just offerings. That's not other income. So from our offerings. So they were really 2 record months to meet that deficit. So the income statement, there we go. So there you can see again the numbers, total revenues, $931,000, and total expenses, $948,000, leading to the $17,000 deficit. One interesting thing about the other income category is that normally that's a very small category, but this year, due to some good financial advice, we invested the extra cash that we have in treasury bills, and those pay much better interest rate, and so we reap the benefit of that with total income in interest and dividends being $20,855 compared to like $1,500 in past years. Expenses totaled $948,000, which was 5.4% over last year, but almost right on budget. We're only $1,300 off budget. But the 5.4% in expenses could not be offset by all of the income. The total revenue was 3.5% over last year. So therefore, again, the deficit that showed up. Okay. What do you have next? Yeah. Benevolences. Again, some of this is part of our operating budget. $68,422 came right out of the operating budget and is budgeted for. And the rest of these non-budgeted benevolences, you can see the Easter, Thanksgiving, Christmas, and then all of the others where we act as pass-through, really, where the congregation gives these funds to a specific purpose, and we then pass them on to others. But that total was $183,881, or 20% of our operating revenues, which was actually the same as last year. So we are a very generous congregation. Okay, the next is the balance sheet. And this basically is just a point in time as of December 31st where our funds resided. The assets are all of the various bank accounts that we have. And the increase that you see there is primarily attributable to the estate gift that we received from Don Nelson of $440,000, which was then deposited or moved into the endowment and deposited at the ELCA Endowment Pooled Fund. On the balance sheet, under the liabilities, you'll see a listing of the various restricted funds that we have. This includes the capital expense fund, the endowment, operating revenue, reserve fund rather, and then all the miscellaneous line items where people have given gifts specifically designated for a certain purpose. And then the last section is the pass-through accounts. I know you can't read this up here. It's a very big file, but I think it's the last page of the report. So you can see all of that detail there. I'll highlight just a couple items there. The Good Samaritan, the Good Samaritan Fund, which is funded totally by donations from the congregation, is running a little low. We're down to $1,030 in that fund. And so if that's a ministry that you want to support, now would be a good time to do that. And the organ fund sits at about $13,000. This is what's left over after doing phase 1 and 2. And so we'll be thinking about phase 3 again, but there is $13,000 there again from your direct contributions to that purpose. So the endowment balance as of December 31st was $505,000. The endowment committee has made their first awards of $10,000 worth of grants, and each year we will be able to do that. And if the market keeps increasing, then that ability to grant funds to those who apply will increase every year. The capital projects for this year, primary ones were AV equipment in the sanctuary and the AV room. The organ phase 2, which again was funded by donations. The others came out of the Capital Reserve Fund. But the bells and chimes were sent in and professionally refurbished. And then, of course, upgrading the outdoor stage and associated concrete work. We spent $45,000 in those capital expenses, not counting the organ. So our budget process. We meet with departments and ministry managers, personnel committee, very important, and the finance committee. And based on that input, we come to a grand total of the proposed operating budget for 2024 is $969,250. That is a 2% increase from 2023, a 4% increase from 2023 revenues. The primary categories, of course, we'll start with personnel. That is $19,000 over this year's, or 2023 actual. That's made up of a full year of 2 rostered leaders with benefits and health insurance. I will say that the Personnel Committee does not do just across-the-board increase. They very carefully look at each individual position and base that on kind of the normal rates in this area that people are being paid. And so they do peruse that very, very carefully. Administration will go up $11,000. That includes things like professional development for the pastors and staff. A lot of our fees are going up. Our background check fee, our fee that we pay to Paycor for doing our payroll, numerous other ones. So that administration line item is going up. Facilities is actually going down, which is, we're hoping that we don't, well, we know. We are not having a winter like we had in '23 when we went $22,000 over budget. So we're reaping a little of that benefit, and we're lowering the facilities budget by $6,000. And then all the others add up to $3,000. The personnel, administration, and facilities budgets are about 75% of our total expenses. And so those are not line items that we can easily make cuts on. And so we do feel like this is a budget that reflects all the ministries that we're supporting and lots of good ideas from other people. So the budget process, after consulting all of this people, it does end with you. Your generosity is appreciated. Just for an example, if we take that budget and divide it by approximately 400 giving households, the average gift would be just over $2,400 for the year. Now we know that some people give less and some people hopefully will give more than that, but it is just kind of a guideline. We have forms in the narthex to update your Simply Giving for 2024, if you wish to do that. You can help reduce our fees, which are around $3,000, by not giving so often, but maybe giving monthly instead of weekly. Bill pay is an option. That does not, we aren't charged a fee for that. And all of these things add up and can help us with our budget. We ask that you consider this budget, pray about it. It requires your input. And the Finance Committee and the Church Council set the budget at a level that was needed to run the church. By approving this budget next Sunday at the annual meeting, the congregation accepts the responsibility for paying for it. Consistent underfunding could lead to spending cuts, which could be in staffing, benevolences, or your favorite ministry. So we urge you to aim for this budget. In turn, we're going to keep you well informed. Stewardship, Finance Committee, we're all, and the council, of course, we're all keyed in on the fact that you need to know what's going on. So you're going to hear a lot about the budget this year. Some people don't like that, but it's the only way you're going to know. The Finance Committee looks at this every single month. And if you really like a lot of detail, we have some reports here. This is another report that's provided to us. It gives all the line-by-line items comparing the budget to 2023. So if you want a little light reading, you can study this. It's not all that interesting, but it is available here. And on the back of it are the restricted funds, again, if your copy didn't come out too well. It's a big file. Where are we at? Okay. So in the end, I would say that the future is very bright. I know that you've heard negative information today, and some people might be a little downhearted about this. We have a deficit, the first one in many, many, many years, and expenses are going up. Makes things a little nerve-wracking. But I would say to you that this is really good news. And it's good news because we're growing. We're adding new members. That means maybe adding some new ministries. We have more expenses because we have a vibrant, active, and interested community. And as I said, we're growing. We have 2 energetic pastors with all kinds of new ideas. So I think the future is bright. It's just a matter of meeting the monetary needs as best we can, and we will help you with that as much as we can. All right, so after all of that information, do we have any questions?
First of all, thank you for your work, and thank you for all of the information that came out towards the end of last year. It was hard to hear, but it was important. And thank you to everybody who stepped up and gave. It was really impressive what this congregation can do. My question is about, in the bulletin, there's a little table every week that says what has been given, and I find it confusing because at the top it says, I think, what we need each month, right? And then it says what's been given, and then sometimes it says what was given at the end of last month, and so I can't tell, does the end of last month count to last month or the next month? Oh, okay.
I'm responsible for that part. So what happens is that bulletins go to print usually on Wednesday or Thursday, and sometimes counting only happens every 2 weeks in terms of counting our monetary, or if cash or checks are in our offering plates. And then the sort of automatic giving, we get a report every week. But normally, I end up giving the last week of the prior month and the end of month plate offering count. I changed it for January because of year end. So this January only has, but if I stayed within 1 month, you would never see the month total because we'd be going to print before we had numbers to fill in the so once we hit February, February's month would have the last week of January and plate offering last half of January and the last week online giving. Is that making any more sense?
Well, we want it to add up to the total at the top, right?
Yes. And so there's always there generally would be 4 weeks and 2 plate offerings within each box except for this month because.
So does end of last month count for next month?
Because it was year end.
But for going forward?
Yes. Or that's in terms of keeping tabs on it as a congregation, week to week, is that if all the lines are filled in, that represents two plate offering counts, or 4 weeks of plate offerings and 4 online weeks.
Okay.
And every once in a while, a month that has a 5th week. But.
Okay, thank you.
It's a timing issue. And trying to keep you informed on a weekly basis is difficult. But for the reports that we see for Finance Committee, of course, we get monthly reports there. So, any other questions? Okay. Well, if we can give you any other information during the course of the year, that we're very open to that. As I said, we're going to try and keep more information out there, so maybe you'll have your fill of it. But certainly, anytime you have a question, please contact myself or any member of the Finance Committee, and we'll get you an answer, hopefully.
If I could just say one thing here, just because not everybody likes speaking in front of groups. Some of the questions that I've personally received are, so we have a deficit, and this is the first time in a long time that we've had a substantial deficit for our church. And the question was, how do we move forward? Are we being too aggressive? Like, is this budget appropriate given that we've ended in the red for this last year? And I think the answer that and I'll let Barb expound on that as well, is, if I don't cover it all, is we have an enormously generous congregation. And for us as a church, obviously it's easier for us to have regular contributions as opposed to catch up at the end of the year, because it's really helpful for us as a church from a budgetary viewpoint, from an administration viewpoint, from a personnel viewpoint, all of these things, to be able to plan and predict how things are going. And it's hard as an organization to wait till December with fingers crossed, like, hope it works. And so for us, it was really generous, and for this church. And for me, that gives a lot of confidence that we are right on task with our budget, even though it's a bit of an increase. Those are largely facility costs that we don't have control of. And as a council, as a finance committee, there's been a lot of work done, especially with finance, to try to help make sure that we're keeping things as lean and as efficient as possible. And so I think this budget reflects that. Most of the increases are costs that are going up that we've all had to deal with. So I'm just going to put in another plug for, you had a slide up there indicating simply giving. And so that makes a big difference for any organization, but especially Bethel, for us to know consistently where giving is for our church, and that helps us plan and organize things far more effectively. I think there's another question over here.
Yes, I have a question. You said that we are getting more. Okay. You said we are increasing our memberships, and so if I think in terms of giving units, like households, how many households gave in 2023 versus 2022? What's our trend look like?
Yeah, I think we've been estimating right around 400 for a couple of years now. When I asked about that a week or so ago, I was told 472, but I don't know. I don't personally see those records. There's very few people in the church who see that information, and so I think 400 is a good number and a good example to use.
Was there another question over here?
The question may be inappropriate. I was setting up communion for the second service and missed the early part of this, but I'm very sorry to know that we have cut the position of communication manager for this congregation. That's the only way we get people involved, if they hear what's going on, and weekly. And Janice has done a superb job with photos and word of getting the word out. And I'm very sorry that this position has been eliminated from our budget.
Hi, I'm a new member. I just joined this last, I believe it was September. I just want to tell you how much this congregation is a breath of fresh air, of friendliness, and I have new friends from where I live coming with me, but I had been in a place of losing confidence in organized religion because of a church I'd been in for 50 years. This place is a breath of fresh air. You are all friendly, wonderful, and I'm at this meeting because I was just curious as to, how you make all this happen. So thank you, and please keep going. And she's right about the communications manager. It really helps new members know what's going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Just want to make a quick comment. Blair Fowler. I've been taking care of this building for the last 10 years, and I have the second largest budget, so I have to fight with my wife all the time for money. But we're 15 years in since we remodeled and did the addition. We have 16 rooftop units up there. They give you a livelihood of 15 years. So this stuff is all coming up every year. There's new things coming up. Property here. The insurance went up 20%. We were notified from our insurance carrier. If we do any work on the roof anymore, any damage, we have to pay $75,000 out of pocket. Before we paid $5,000. So these are huge increases that we have no control to keep this building in good condition for everybody to use. So keep the lights off, keep the doors closed, keep the thermostats turned down. It all helps. Electricity's gone up 15%. So I'm lucky to see we've had this mild winter. We've saved about $12,000 already this year with not having Charlie come and plow our sidewalks and take care of our parking lot. And if we don't do that, then some of us older people fall down, and then we got insurance claims to worry about. So just think about it. Close the door, turn the lights off, please. Thank you.
Don't give him a microphone.
I'm Lee Runsheimer. I've been on the Finance Committee forever, but I just wanted to end by, again, thanking Barb Fowler and before her, Jared Plotz, who is our 2022 Financial Director Treasurer. They've both done a lot of hard work, seen and unseen, and several other people in absentia that I just wanted to recognize is Carolyn Smith, who works in our office. She's not a member of our church, but she does all the day-to-day, week-to-week, month-to-month grunt work on providing the details behind the financial statements and the contribution statements and so on. She's a key person in our church organization from that standpoint. And secondly, in absentia, he wasn't able to be here. Kevin Fink is a member of our Finance Committee and has done a lot of good work with the rest of us on getting our finances quickly redeployed into higher interest rate. As soon as the interest rate started going up, as we recall a couple years ago, Kevin is the one who's done all the hard work on that to make sure we maximize our interest income, which, as you saw in the other income line, we're up like $25,000 from a year ago, just by all of the gifts we've had that are now in our foundation benevolent funds and redeploying them at safe treasury bills, but higher yielding. So thanks to all of you for the work you've done.
I definitely wanted to follow up too, because you are absolutely right. Janice has been wonderful as a communications director, but I also want to emphasize communication isn't ending at church. We're continuing that. We've just divested some of those responsibilities to other people, but I appreciate the comment. Any other questions or comments?
You may have mentioned it before, but are we able to invest that endowment fund, or does it have to stay into an account? Can we do the bonds or can we invest that endowment fund?
It It is, well, the endowment is invested at the ELCA in a very large endowment pooled fund that they have. And so it goes there, it's invested with millions of other dollars, and then we receive annually, they set a return rate. And so we get interest off of that account quarterly, and we've been just reinvesting that with this large gift. Of course, it increases the amount of income, and we'll be passing that on in the form of grants. We never spend the principal, but it is invested as an endowment, should be in long-term in type of investments, not short-term. But yes, it's available to us, but on a grant basis.
Don Pavick. I just want to put a plug in for the garage sale. And we, it's early, but we do raise a lot of money. And this money helps support a lot of different programs here at Bethel. So all of you, put that on your calendars, and it's going to be coming up. Start paring down. We take cars and motorcycles and a lot of good things too. Boats. Blair, we take your boat.
I'm Pam Vig. I think it's important when we are thinking about our monthly expenses to understand that they aren't divided out into 12 equal months. Because of the way programming works, we have very little spent on some months in our ministries, but there are months like September and August when we're preparing for fall that we spend a lot, or maybe sometimes in certain ministries the majority of it. So it's not going to be 12 perfect little expense accounts every month, and it's not going to be 12 perfect little income every month. So as long as we've been here, we've always been behind when December rolls around because we've had to spend to get our fall programming started, but then we catch up in November and December. Does that make sense?
Thank you.
That's very true. I think if you look at that chart, or the bar graph that was up, you can see that this year we were kind of exceptionally behind. It took a lot of money in November and December to make up that deficit. It's true, we're always going to be kind of running behind, but that level was unnerving, quite frankly, and so we just want to try to get a majority of people giving regular amounts during the course of the year to kind of even that out. We know that the way some people get their money is different than others, and so we know there'll be ups and downs, but yeah, we don't want to be quite so far behind as we were this year.
And I will add that stewardship will be assisting us very soon with knowing how to set up simply giving style tithing. So more information will be coming on that soon.
And if anybody wants to make any changes to their Simply Giving today, Jared's going to be at that back table afterwards, and he'll take your information.
Any other questions or comments? Pardon? Oh. Yeah, so we have, many of you, it look like you have a annual report. If you want to take it with you to review, that's great. Just make sure you bring it back next Sunday for the annual meeting. If you would like to leave it here at the church so that you can pick it up again, there's a box right at the back there. So we have only so many copies, so we want to make sure we try to hang on to those for the annual meeting too. Thank you. Nice work on those, Janice. Well, if there's no other questions or comments, thank you for being here today. We really appreciate your investment and your concern and consideration for our church. Have a great weekend.